Broken heart, we're leaving tomorrow, Mom. Your beach house has already been sold. Bye. My son's voice crackled coldly through the phone. For a moment, my breath stopped. My heart thudded inside my chest as though the earth itself had split in half. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady myself. My beach house. Sold. Just like that? I swallowed hard, but instead of breaking down, I forced a laugh. But you forgot one thing, I said. There was a pause on the other end. His voice sharpened. What are you talking about? I laughed louder, so loud that it echoed in the empty living room around me. My son had no idea. The house he had sold, the one he thought was his golden ticket out of my life, wasn't what he thought it was. He had made the biggest mistake of his life, and he was about to find out. That, my dear listeners, is where everything began to change. But before I continue, let me properly introduce myself. My name is Margaret, I'm 71 years old, and I'm speaking to you from the coast of South Carolina in the United States. If you love stories like this, real-life drama, shocking betrayals, and lessons that shake the soul, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification button so you won't miss the next chapters of my journey. And tell me, from which part of the country are you watching me from? I'd love to know. Now let's go back to where it all started. The sun was golden the morning it all began. I had just returned from my morning walk along the shore, my favorite cane in hand, humming a hymn my mother used to sing to me. The waves crashed, the seagulls circled, and everything felt right. Or so I thought. My son, Richard, had grown distant over the past few years. He used to call me every Sunday, ask how I was doing, and sometimes bring his children to see me. But lately, his calls had been short, cold, and full of excuses. I blamed work stress. I blamed his busy life. But deep inside, a mother knows when something darker is brewing. That day, I had cooked a big pot of clam chowder, hoping he'd bring the kids over. They loved it, especially little Emily, who always asked for extra bread to dip into the soup. I waited by the window, staring at the driveway, hoping to see his car pull in. Hours passed. No call. No visit. I felt a sting of loneliness, but I brushed it aside. At 71, loneliness had become an old companion. I turned on the radio and let Frank Sinatra sing me through the evening. That's when the phone rang. It was Richard. His voice was sharp, rushed, almost cruel. Mom, I don't have much time. We're leaving tomorrow. Your beach house has already been sold. Bye. Just like that. No apology. No explanation. No words. My knees buckled, and I fell into the chair. Tears blurred my vision, but then something inside me snapped. He thought he had won, but he didn't know the full story. That house he thought he sold wasn't mine alone. I had hidden something inside it, something he would never be able to claim, no matter how many papers he signed. But before I could reveal my secret, I remembered the past, the sacrifices I had made for him, the life I had given up, and the warning signs I had ignored. Richard had always been ambitious, even as a child. He wanted more toys, more attention, more everything. I gave him what I could, even when I had nothing left for myself. After his father died, I worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. My hands blistered from scrubbing floors, and my back ached from carrying groceries I could barely afford. All for him. And now this was how he repaid me? The house wasn't just a house. It was my heart. My late husband and I had built it brick by brick, painting the walls ourselves, planting roses in the garden, carving our initials in the old oak tree by the porch. Every memory of love, laughter, and struggle was buried in that place. And Richard had sold it, as if it meant nothing. The betrayal burned inside me. That night, I didn't sleep. I walked from room to room, touching the walls, whispering to the house itself as though it could hear me. Don't worry, I murmured. They won't take you away from me. Not so easily. But little did I know, the worst was yet to come. The very next morning, there was a knock at my door. Loud. Insistent. My heart raced as I walked to open it. On the porch stood 2 strangers, men in suits, holding documents in their hands. Mrs. Walker? One of them asked. I nodded, fear clawing at my chest. We're here regarding the property transfer. We need you to vacate the premises immediately. My world spun. My throat closed. I clutched the doorframe for balance. And that was the moment I realized Richard hadn't just sold the house. He had already signed everything, already pushed me out, already erased me from my own life. But he forgot one thing. And that one thing was about to change everything. The man on my porch adjusted his tie, holding out a stack of papers that seemed thicker than a Bible. Mrs. Walker, we've been instructed to inform you that this property now belongs to the new buyer. You're required to vacate within 72 hours. My ears rang. The sound of the ocean outside vanished. All I could hear was my own heartbeat pounding in my chest. I forced myself to stand tall. My cane trembled in my grip, but my voice did not. You can't just walk up to my door and tell me my life has been sold behind my back. Who bought it? They exchanged looks. One of them cleared his throat. I'm afraid we can't disclose details of the buyer, ma'am. But everything has been signed by your son, Richard Walker. He had full authority. Full authority? My hands tightened around the papers as I snatched them from his grip. I skimmed the lines, the cold legal words blurring in my eyes. Somehow, Richard had managed to convince someone, maybe with forged documents, that he had the right to sell what wasn't fully his. Because here's what Richard didn't know. When my husband passed away, he left the beach house in both our names. Not just mine. Not just Richard's. It was jointly owned, with my late husband's brother, Samuel. And Samuel was still very much alive. My lips curled into a bitter smile. Oh, Richard had no idea the mess he had just created. But in that moment, I couldn't show my cards. Instead, I feigned weakness, letting my voice crack. I need some time to pack. This house holds memories. Please give me a little space. The men softened, nodding. 72 hours, Mrs. Walker. That's all we can give. When they left, I shut the door and slid down against it, tears rolling down my cheeks. Not tears of defeat, no. Tears of rage. Tears of betrayal. Tears of a mother whose only son had stabbed her in the back. I picked myself up slowly, walked to the living room, and sat in my husband's old rocking chair. I rocked back and forth, thinking about everything Richard had taken from me. But I wasn't about to let him win. Samuel. I whispered into the quiet room, it's time. I reached for the phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. My brother-in-law answered on the third ring. His voice was older, rougher, but unmistakably the same. Margaret? After all these years. I need you. I said simply, my voice trembling but strong. Richard sold the beach house. But he doesn't know the truth. Will you come? There was silence. Then Samuel's voice hardened like steel. I'll be there by morning. I hung up, relief washing over me. For the first time that night, I felt hope. Richard thought he was clever, but he had played a dangerous game, and he was about to lose. The next day, I spent the morning packing boxes. Not because I was leaving, but because I needed to protect the things that truly mattered. Family albums. My husband's war medals. Letters he had written me when we were young. Around noon, a car pulled into the driveway. I peered through the curtains. It wasn't Samuel. It was Richard. My heart lurched. He stepped out of his shiny black car, wearing sunglasses and a smug grin. He didn't even knock. He walked right in, like he owned the place already. Well, Mom, he said, spreading his arms. I hope you're not too mad. It's just business. You'll be fine. We'll get you a nice little apartment somewhere in the city. My blood boiled. How could you do this to me, Richard? This is my home. Your father's home. Our family's legacy. He smirked, shaking his head. Legacy doesn't pay bills. Legacy doesn't buy me a better future. It's just a house. And you'll survive. You always do. My hands trembled as I pointed my cane at him. You think you've won, but you've forgotten something. His grin faltered. What are you talking about? I leaned forward, my eyes burning into his. The house isn't yours to sell. It was never just mine. And you'll regret the day you tried to cheat me. He laughed, though I could see the flicker of unease in his eyes. Oh, come on. Mom, don't start with your riddles. I've got the papers. The buyers have already signed. It's done. I opened my mouth to reveal the truth about Samuel, about the half of the house Richard couldn't touch. But before I could speak, the sound of tires screeched outside. Both of us froze. A car door slammed. Heavy footsteps crunched against the gravel driveway. Then came the sharp knock at the door. Richard frowned. Who the hell is that? And my heart leapt in my chest because I knew exactly who it was. Samuel had arrived. The knock thundered through the house, shaking the walls like a storm. Richard glanced at me, his eyebrows pulling together. Are you expecting someone? I leaned back in the chair, folding my hands across my lap. Yes, I said calmly, my voice carrying a weight he didn't understand yet. Before Richard could stop me, I rose, cane in hand, and opened the door. And there he was. Samuel. Tall, broad-shouldered, with hair gone silver but eyes still sharp as steel. His face was weathered by time, but his presence was strong, commanding. For a moment, I saw my late husband in him, and my throat tightened. Richard's jaw dropped. Uncle Samuel? What are you doing here? Samuel stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. His boots thudded against the hardwood floor as he crossed the living room, eyes narrowing at Richard like a hawk circling prey. I heard you sold this house, Samuel said flatly. His voice carried the weight of thunder. Richard laughed nervously. Yes. Look, it was a good deal. Mom can't keep up with the place anymore, and… Shut your mouth, Samuel cut in, his words slicing the air like a blade. Richard froze. Samuel turned to me, his gaze softening. Margaret, are you all right? I nodded, though my hands still shook. I'm fine now that you're here. Then Samuel swung back to Richard, his face hard again. Listen carefully, boy. This house isn't yours to sell. It never was. Your father made sure of that before he died. Half of this house belongs to me. And you sold something that wasn't yours to give. Richard's face drained of color. His cocky grin vanished, replaced by shock and anger. That can't be true. Dad left everything to Mom, and Mom, He turned to me desperate. Mom, tell him it's all yours. I shook my head slowly. No, Richard. Your father left half the house to me, and half to his brother. It was his way of making sure you couldn't destroy what we built. Richard stumbled back, his face pale. No, that's impossible. I signed the papers. The buyer's already. Samuel slammed his fist down on the table, making the dishes rattle. Those papers are worthless. Fraudulent. Illegal. You tried to cheat your own mother, and now you've dragged strangers into a war you can't win. For the first time in years, I saw fear in my son's eyes. His arrogance cracked, and beneath it, a boy stood, lost, cornered, desperate. But the silence didn't last long. Richard's face hardened again. He clenched his fists. Fine. If that's the way you want to play it, Uncle, then so be it. But I won't let you ruin this for me. I've already promised the buyers. Do you think they'll just walk away? They'll come knocking, and when they do, you'll both regret this. Samuel took a step forward, towering over him. You brought this on yourself. And when those buyers come, you'd better pray they're more forgiving than I am. Richard's phone buzzed loudly in his pocket. He yanked it out, glanced at the screen, and his face turned white. What is it? I asked, my stomach twisting. Richard swallowed hard. It's them. The buyers. They're outside. My blood ran cold. We turned toward the window, and there they were. Two sleek black cars pulling into the driveway, tinted windows hiding the faces inside. The engines rumbled like growling beasts. Samuel's jaw tightened. This isn't good. Richard stepped back, panic creeping into his voice. They weren't supposed to come this soon. I clutched my cane, my knees trembling. Who did you sell this house to, Richard? He didn't answer. He couldn't. His lips parted, but no words came. The front door rattled with a heavy knock, louder, sharper, more menacing than before. Samuel straightened his back, fists clenched. Richard looked like a cornered animal. And me? I whispered a silent prayer, because something told me these buyers weren't ordinary people. The second knock came, harder this time, almost breaking the wood. Then a cold voice boomed through the door. Open up. We know you're in there. The voice outside was deep, sharp, and commanding. It cut through the air like a blade. Richard froze in the middle of the living room, his phone still clutched in his sweaty hand. Samuel stepped in front of me, like a soldier shielding a civilian. His broad frame blocked my view of the door, but I could still feel the vibrations of that third, thunderous knock that almost splintered the wood. "Open the door," the voice repeated. "Now." Richard stammered, his arrogance shattered. They weren't supposed to be here so soon. They said next week. I thought I had more time. Samuel's glare could have burned through steel. "What kind of people did you sell this house to, Richard?" Richard swallowed hard, his eyes darting everywhere but mine. "Investors. Just investors. That's all." Samuel barked a bitter laugh. "Investors don't roll up in blacked-out cars and pound doors like the FBI. You've dragged something dangerous into this house, boy." The door handle rattled violently. My heart leapt into my throat. Before Samuel could move, Richard rushed forward. "Don't!" I cried. But it was too late. Richard swung open the door. Two men stood there in black suits, their expressions cold. Eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses even though the sun had already set. Behind them, the engines of the sleek cars purred, and I could see two more shadows inside. "Mr. Walker," one of the men said, his tone icy and smooth. "We've come for confirmation. You promised us this house." Richard's voice cracked. "Why, yes. Yes, I did." But he glanced nervously at me and Samuel. "There's a complication." The man stepped forward, his polished shoes echoing against the wooden floor. His partner followed silently, their presence suffocating. "A complication?" the first man repeated, his lips curving into the faintest smirk. "We don't like complications." Samuel squared his shoulders, stepping between them and me. "This house was never his to sell. Half of it belongs to me. The contract you have is worthless." The man's smirk vanished. He studied Samuel with a predator's calm. "And you are Samuel Walker, the rightful co-owner." The room tensed like a bowstring ready to snap. Richard's face paled even more. "Please just give me time. I'll sort this out. I can fix it, I swear." But the men didn't look at him. They looked at Samuel, then at me. Their silence was worse than shouting. Finally, the second man spoke, his voice low and cold. "Whether the contract is legal or not doesn't matter to us. Money has already changed hands. And we don't walk away empty-handed." A chill ran down my spine. I tightened my grip on my cane, my knuckles white. Samuel's jaw clenched. "You'll have to walk away, whether you like it or not. This house isn't yours." The first man leaned in, his face inches from Samuel's. "Careful, old man. People who stand in the way of business like ours disappear." The silence that followed was unbearable. My heart thundered. Richard wiped sweat from his forehead, his voice trembling. "Please don't threaten them. I'll figure out a way to get your money back." But the man only chuckled. "You better. You have 72 hours. He turned sharply, motioning to his partner, and the two men walked back to their cars. The engines roared to life, and within seconds, the vehicles disappeared into the night, leaving only the smell of burning rubber behind. The silence inside the house was deafening. I collapsed into my chair, my chest heaving. Samuel stood frozen, fists still clenched, eyes burning with fury. Richard, however, sank to his knees, burying his face in his hands. "What have you done, Richard?" I whispered. He lifted his head, his eyes red with panic. "Mum. Uncle, you don't understand. These aren't ordinary buyers. These men, they belong to people you don't say no to. If I don't deliver this house, they'll come back. And next time," his voice cracked, "next time they won't be so polite." Samuel grabbed him by the collar, yanking him to his feet. "You fool. You've put your mother's life at risk. You've put all of us in danger." Richard broke free, his voice rising. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I was desperate. I needed the money." I shot up from my chair, my voice trembling with anger. "Money? You'd sell your own mother's home for money? And now you've dragged criminals into this." The truth hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Richard's chest heaved, his face twisted in guilt and fear. Then, before anyone could say another word, the phone rang. All of us froze. Slowly I picked it up. My hands shook as I pressed it to my ear. A voice I didn't recognize spoke softly, almost kindly. "Mrs. Walker, this is your only warning. Leave the house within 72 hours. Or we'll make sure you never walk out alive." Click. The line went dead. The dial tone buzzed in my ear long after the caller had hung up. My hand trembled as I slowly lowered the phone back onto its cradle. The silence in the room was heavy, pressing on my chest until I could barely breathe. Samuel was the first to speak. What did they say? I swallowed hard, my voice shaking. They told me, if we don't leave this house within 72 hours, they'll make sure I never walk out alive. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Richard's face drained of all color. He stumbled back against the wall, his hands clutching his hair. No. This wasn't supposed to happen. They promised me. Samuel cut him off with a roar. Promised you? Promised you? You sold your soul to devils, Richard. And now you've dragged your own mother into their trap. I clutched my cane tighter, my knuckles turning white. My eyes burned as I stared at my son. Tell me the truth, Richard. All of it. How much money did you take from them? Richard shook his head, his voice trembling. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I just needed a loan. They gave me cash up front, $50,000. I thought I could pay it back once the house was sold. I thought I was being smart. I didn't know they were. His words faltered. Samuel stepped forward, fury radiating from every inch of him. 50,000? You endangered your own mother's life for 50,000. Richard dropped his head into his hands. I was drowning in debt, Uncle. The business collapsed. The bank was going to take everything. I had nowhere else to turn. I felt tears prick my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. So you turned to criminals, I whispered. And you gave away the only thing left of your father's legacy. Samuel's voice was low, dangerous. These men aren't going to stop, Margaret. They'll come back. And next time, they won't just knock politely. The room fell silent again, each of us lost in fear. The ocean waves outside crashed against the shore, mocking the storm inside my house. Finally, I stood tall, forcing my trembling legs to carry me. We can't sit here waiting to die. We have to act. We need to call the police. Richard shot up, panic flaring in his eyes. No police. If you call them, these men will know. They'll come after us faster. The police can't protect us from people like this. Samuel glared at him. And what do you suggest? Sit here like sheep waiting for the wolves to rip us apart. Richard opened his mouth, but no words came. His silence was louder than anything he could have said. I turned away from them, walking slowly toward the old wooden cabinet by the wall. My husband's cabinet. The one he had locked before he died. My hands shook as I pulled out the brass key I had worn around my neck for years. They both watched in silence as I unlocked the cabinet and swung open the doors. Inside, wrapped in a faded cloth, was an old wooden box. I lifted it carefully and placed it on the table. This, I whispered, is the one thing your father made me promise never to reveal unless the family was in danger. Richard leaned forward, confusion etched on his face. Samuel's eyes narrowed, suspicion flickering. With trembling hands, I opened the box. Inside was a stack of documents, property deeds, bank statements, and a small black notebook filled with names and numbers. This house, I said slowly, my voice firm now, is not just a house. Your father invested in land, in businesses, in things that Richard never knew about. And he used this house as the key to all of it. Anyone who controls this house controls far more than bricks and wood. Samuel's eyes widened. So that's why they want it. Richard's mouth fell open. Dad never told me any of this. I stared at him, bitterness rising in my throat. Because he knew you would do exactly what you've done now. Before Richard could respond, the sound of shattering glass pierced the air. We all spun around. The living room window had exploded inward, shards glittering across the floor. A black object rolled across the carpet, hissing with smoke. Samuel's face drained. Get down, he shouted. The object clinked once, twice, then erupted with a deafening bang. The blast shook the entire house. The walls rattled, pictures crashed to the floor, and smoke filled the air so thick it burned my lungs. My ears rang from the deafening bang, and for a moment I couldn't hear anything but a shrill whistle inside my head. Mom, get down. Richard's voice came faintly through the haze. Samuel grabbed me by the arm, pulling me to the ground behind the heavy oak table just as shards of glass rained down where I had been standing. My cane clattered across the floor, out of reach. What was that? I coughed, my chest heaving, smoke stinging my eyes. Samuel's face was grim, his voice sharp. Flashbang. They're testing us. Trying to scare us out. Scare us? I gasped. They'll kill us. Before Samuel could reply, another crash echoed from the back of the house, with splintering, footsteps pounding against the porch. They're already inside. Richard shouted, panic breaking in his voice. I grabbed his wrist, forcing him to look at me. This is your doing, Richard. You will not run. You will not leave me to die here. His face twisted in guilt and fear, but Samuel barked orders before he could answer. Both of you stay behind me. We're not going down without a fight. Through the smoke, I saw him reach into his jacket and pull out something I hadn't seen in years, a pistol polished but old. My late husband's. He must have kept it hidden all this time. Richard's eyes went wide. You're armed? Samuel didn't look at him. I came prepared. I know men like these. Once they knock, they don't stop until they've taken everything. The footsteps grew louder, closer. A floorboard creaked. My heart slammed against my ribs. Then, from the shadows of the hallway, a figure appeared, dressed in black, a mask covering his face, a crowbar in hand. His eyes locked on us through the smoke. Richard let out a choke sound, half fear, half regret. The man raised the crowbar. Time's up. Before he could move, Samuel fired. The gunshot cracked through the house, louder than thunder. The man dropped instantly, his crowbar clattering across the floor. Silence followed, thick, suffocating silence. I pressed a trembling hand over my mouth. My son stared at the fallen man, horror painted across his face. Samuel stood tall, gun still smoking in his hand, his jaw clenched like iron. They won't stop now, Samuel said coldly. That shot was a message. And they'll send one back. As if on cue, the sound of more footsteps echoed outside. Doors slamming. Voices shouting. Cars screeching to a halt. Richard peeked through the shattered window and his face drained of blood. Oh no, oh God, no. They brought more. A lot more. How many? Samuel barked. 3 cars, Richard whispered. At least 8 men. Maybe more. The smoke was clearing now, and through the broken glass I could see figures moving in the yard. Dark shapes circling the house like wolves around wounded prey. I felt my knees weaken. My mind screamed for me to run, to escape, but my heart knew there was nowhere to go. Not now. Samuel turned to me, his voice low but steady. Margaret, listen to me. Go to the cabinet. Underneath the floorboards, there's a hatch. Your husband showed me once. It leads to the old storm shelter. You'll be safe there. My breath caught. And what about you? His eyes hardened. I'll hold them off. Richard grabbed his arm desperately. No. You'll get killed. We all will. Samuel shoved him back with a glare. You brought this hell to her doorstep, Richard. You'll do as I say. Or you'll answer to me before they get the chance. The pounding on the door started again. This time it wasn't polite. Fists. Boots. The wood groaned under the pressure. I reached for my cane, forcing my trembling legs to carry me to the cabinet. Every step felt heavier, like walking through water. My heart hammered, my ears straining to hear every sound outside. As I reached the cabinet, I heard the door splinter. Samuel raised his gun. Richard froze, caught between fear and guilt. Then through the shattered doorway, a man's voice shouted, "Bring her out. We only want the old woman. The rest of you can live if you hand her over." My blood turned to ice. The words echoed like a death sentence. Bring her out. We only want the old woman. The rest of you can live if you hand her over. For a moment, no one moved. My heart pounded so loud I thought the men outside could hear it. Samuel's jaw clenched, his hand tightening around the pistol. Richard stood frozen, his eyes darting between me, Samuel, and the shattered door. I whispered, my throat dry. They want me? Samuel didn't look at me. His gaze stayed fixed on the doorway, like a soldier preparing for war. It's a bluff. They want control of the house. You're the key. They think if they break you, they get everything. But Richard's face twisted with panic. Mom, you don't understand. These people, if we don't give them what they want, they'll kill us all. Samuel swung around, his voice a growl. Don't you dare say it, Richard. Richard flinched but pressed on, desperation dripping from every word. Maybe if we just let them talk to her. Talk? Samuel thundered. You think they came here to talk? You'd hand over your own mother like a lamb to slaughter. The front door groaned again, a crack running down its center. Boots pounded. The house shook with every blow. I grabbed Richard's wrist, forcing his eyes on mine. You listen to me, son. If you even think about opening that door, you'll lose me forever, whether they take me or not. His lips quivered. For the first time, I saw a boy again. The little boy I once held when he cried after scraping his knee. But that boy was long gone, buried under debt, greed, and fear. Suddenly, the door exploded inward with a deafening crash. The attackers surged inside like a flood. 5 men in black, their faces masked, their boots thudding across the floorboards. One raised a bat, another a gun, and the rest spread out, circling like wolves closing in. Samuel fired instantly. The gun roared, dropping the first man before his boots could touch the carpet. The others ducked behind furniture, shouting to each other. Cover the sides, one yelled. Richard stumbled backward, his face white with terror. We're dead, we're all dead. Shut up and move. Samuel barked, dragging me toward the cabinet. The hatch, Margaret. Now. But before I could reach it, one of the men lunged at us, swinging a bat. Samuel blocked him with the pistol, the wood cracking against metal. The gun flew from his hand, skittering across the floor. The man raised the bat again, his masked face inches from mine. His eyes burned with cold fury. And then, before Samuel could react, Richard moved. He grabbed the crowbar from the floor, the one the first intruder had dropped. With a scream, he swung it down with all his strength. The man collapsed instantly, motionless. For a moment, the room fell silent, the only sound my ragged breathing. Samuel stared at Richard, stunned. I did too. But Richard's hands were shaking so badly, he nearly dropped the crowbar. His face was pale, his eyes wide with horror at what he'd just done. Mom, he whispered, his voice broken. I didn't mean. Before I could answer, the remaining attackers regrouped at the door. One raised his gun and shouted, "We'll burn the place down if we have to." Flames. The word shot through me like lightning. I could almost see it already. The walls of this house, the memories of my life, going up in fire. And then came the smell. I turned my head sharply. Smoke. Real smoke, not just the lingering flashbang haze. It was seeping from the back hallway, thick and dark. They weren't bluffing. They had already set the house on fire. The smoke slithered into the living room like a serpent, black and hungry. It curled around the broken furniture, creeping up the walls, choking the air. Fire. I shouted, coughing, my lungs tightening. They've set the house on fire. Samuel's face hardened. He grabbed my arm and yanked me toward the cabinet. Storm hatch now. But Richard froze, his crowbar clattering to the floor. His eyes darted toward the doorway, where the masked men still lurked, guns gleaming. We can't outrun them. If we try, they'll shoot us down before we make it out. Then we fight. Samuel barked. Fight. Richard's voice cracked. Do you even hear yourself? You saw what just happened. He glanced at the body of the man he had struck down. His hands trembled violently, his guilt written all over his face. The attackers shouted again, their voices distorted through the smoke. Hand her over. Or burn with her. I turned to Richard, my chest heaving. Son, look at me. I am not leaving through that door. Do you understand? I will die here with my dignity before I let them drag me away like some criminal. His lips trembled, his eyes glassy with tears. Mom, I can't do this anymore. Samuel snapped, his voice a thunderclap. Then move out of the way before you kill us all. But then, Richard did the unthinkable. He ran. Straight toward the front door. Wait! I screamed. He raised his hands high, coughing through the smoke. Stop. Stop shooting. I'll give you what you want. Just let me live. Richard. My voice broke. The masked men hesitated. Then one of them yanked him forward like a dog on a leash. They shoved him against the wall, their gun trained on his chest. Samuel cursed under his breath. That coward just signed our death warrants. The fire crackled louder now, flames licking at the hallway curtains. The heat pressed against my skin, the smoke clawing at my throat. My sanctuary, the house I built with my own hands, the house of memories, was turning into a coffin. The leader's voice rang out through the chaos, cold and sharp. We have your son. Come out now, old woman, or we'll slit his throat before the fire does. Samuel's grip tightened on my wrist. His jaw clenched, veins bulging in his neck. Don't you move, Margaret. Don't you dare move. But I looked at my son, sweating, coughing, his eyes begging me from across the flames. Despite everything, despite the betrayal, he was still my boy. Tears burned my eyes as I whispered, "He's still my son, Samuel." I stepped forward, and just as I did, the roof above us groaned with a sickening crack. The ceiling sagged, glowing embers raining down. The house was seconds from collapsing. Then boom. The back window shattered as something crashed through, sending shards of glass flying. A dark figure rolled into the smoke-filled room, rising with military precision. I squinted through the haze. It wasn't another attacker. It was someone else. And the sight of him nearly dropped me to my knees. Because I knew that face. Through the smoke and fire, his face emerged like a ghost from my past. My knees buckled. My heart stopped. My voice cracked when I whispered his name. Michael. Samuel's head whipped toward me. Michael? You know this man. The figure straightened, brushing glass off his jacket. His eyes met mine, steady and unreadable. I told you, Margaret, he said in that same gravelly voice I thought I'd never hear again. One day you'd need me. The room spun. This couldn't be real. Michael was gone, long gone. 20 years had passed since the day he disappeared from our lives, leaving nothing but rumors, debts, and heartbreak. And yet here he stood, alive, breathing, in my burning house. Samuel raised his fists, confusion and fury warring on his face. Who the hell is this? Before I could answer, the attackers roared. Take them all. Kill the men, drag the woman out. Bullets tore through the air, smashing into the walls. Michael moved like lightning. He pulled a pistol from inside his coat and returned fire with the precision of a soldier. Two of the masked men dropped instantly, their weapons clattering to the floor. Samuel ducked behind the cabinet, his voice low but urgent. Margaret, is he friend or foe? Tell me now. But my throat locked. I didn't know. Not anymore. Richard screamed from across the room, still in the grip of the remaining intruders. Mom, help me. Please. Michael's gun clicked empty. Without hesitation, he snatched up the crowbar Richard had dropped earlier and swung it with brutal force, breaking the arm of the man holding my son. Richard collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. The flames spread faster now, climbing the walls like living creatures. Smoke stung my eyes. My lungs begged for air. Every second counted. Through the hatch. Michael shouted, pointing at the cabinet Samuel had tried to open earlier. It leads to the storm shelter under the house. Go before the roof caves in. Samuel glared at him, distrust etched deep in his face. And how do you know about that hatch? Who the hell are you really? Michael's jaw tightened, his gaze flicking back to me. His silence was answer enough. I swallowed hard. The truth sat heavy on my tongue, but I couldn't say it. Not here. Not now. Another shot rang out. The last attacker fell, screaming, but not before. Hurling something small and black through the fire. It landed at our feet. A grenade. The ticking sound was deafening. Samuel shouted, "Down!" and tackled me to the floor. But the blast never came. Instead, the grenade hissed, filling the room with a thick white smoke. Tear gas. My eyes burned, my throat screamed, and my body convulsed in violent coughs. Through the haze, I heard Michael's voice, calm and cold. They're not done yet. Reinforcements are coming. Then he looked at me, right into my soul, and whispered words that froze my blood. This is all happening because of me. The smoke clawed at my throat as Samuel dragged me back to my feet. My eyes streamed with tears, not only from the gas but from the weight of Michael's words. What? What do you mean this is happening because of you? I croaked, my voice breaking. Michael's face was set like stone, but his eyes carried 20 years of buried torment. He motioned us toward the cabinet, urgency in his every move. There's no time. We have to get underground before the rest of them arrive. But Samuel refused. He shoved Michael against the scorched wall, rage flaring in his eyes. Answer her. Who are you? And what mess have you dragged us into? The flames roared louder, swallowing the curtains, the furniture, everything I had built. The ceiling groaned under the weight of fire. But none of it mattered at that moment. The only sound I could hear was Michael's breathing, shallow, heavy, as if confessing would kill him faster than the fire. Finally he spoke. I was part of them. The room seemed to collapse in on itself. What? Samuel growled. Michael's voice cracked. The men outside. The ones hunting her. 20 years ago, I worked with them. We were a syndicate, smuggling properties, laundering money, using families as shields. But I fell in love with someone I was never supposed to. His eyes locked on mine. My heart twisted. Me. He nodded once. I left everything for you, Margaret. But walking away from them, it wasn't that simple. I've been hiding ever since. And now they finally found me. They don't just want the house. They want you, because you're the only thing I ever chose over them. The truth hit me harder than the smoke, harder than the fire. My legs nearly gave way. My life, my son, my home. Everything had been dragged into the storm because of a love I never even knew still lived. Samuel's grip tightened on Michael's collar. So you admit it. You're the reason she's suffering. You brought this nightmare to her door. Michael didn't fight back. His voice was hollow. Yes. Richard staggered toward us, his face pale, his body trembling from shock and smoke. So all of this, everything, it's because of you? Michael looked at him, a strange softness in his eyes. Not just me. Because of choices I made to protect her. Choices that came with a price. The floor groaned under our feet, a beam crashing down nearby. Sparks flew, flames leapt higher, and the air grew hotter by the second. We had no more time for confessions. Move, Michael barked, shoving the cabinet aside to reveal the hatch. He yanked it open, revealing a black hole that smelled of damp earth and dust. Down there. We'll be safe for now. But Samuel blocked the way, his pistol raised again. His voice was cold steel. Not until you tell me what else you're hiding. If you betrayed her once, you'll do it again. The fire howled, pressing us all closer to death, and in that terrible moment I knew. Samuel wasn't just deciding whether to trust Michael. He was deciding whether to shoot him where he stood. Michael raised his hands slowly, his eyes locked on mine, not Samuel's. His voice was low, almost a plea. There's something you don't know, Margaret. Something even worse than this fire. Worse than these men. My heart thumped painfully against my ribs. What could be worse than this? Michael's next words made the floor fall out from under me. They're not after you because of me. They're after you because of Richard. The fire crackled like a beast devouring its prey, spitting sparks into the choking air. Michael's words cut through it all like a blade. They're after you because of Richard. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I turned to my son, his pale face lit by the orange glow of the flames. What does he mean? Richard stumbled backward, shaking his head furiously. No, don't listen to him. He's lying. He's just trying to turn you against me. But Michael's eyes stayed locked on mine, steady and unflinching. He's not innocent, Margaret. Your son owes them. That's why they came. He promised them the house as payment. The words hit harder than the smoke in my lungs. My knees buckled, my vision swam. Richard. My voice cracked. Tell me this isn't true. Richard's lips trembled. His hands shook as he wiped soot from his face. Mom, I didn't have a choice. I was drowning. The debts, the threats. They said they'd kill me if I didn't give them something. I thought. His voice broke. I thought if I gave them the house, they'd leave us alone. Samuel's fist clenched around his pistol. You selfish coward. You'd sell your mother's blood to save your own skin. Shut up. Richard snapped, his voice hoarse. You don't know what it's like to wake up every day with death breathing down your neck. I just wanted it to stop. I stared at him, my heart tearing apart. My own son. The boy I raised, the boy I loved, had led wolves to my door. Richard, I whispered, tears burning my eyes. You should have come to me. You should have told me. I couldn't, he sobbed. You'd hate me and now you do. The fire roared louder, the ceiling groaning, embers raining down around us. Michael yanked the hatch open wider, shouting over the chaos. We don't have time for this. We need to get below before the whole place comes down. But Samuel didn't move. His gun was pointed straight at Richard now, his voice a growl. He's the reason they're here. He's the reason she's in danger. We should end this right now. Samuel, no. I cried, clutching his arm. That's my son. Richard's face crumpled with terror, tears streaking down his soot-stained cheeks. Mom, please, don't let him do this. Michael stepped between them, his voice sharp and commanding. There's no time. Either we move together now, or none of us make it out alive. The roof above us gave a final, ear-splitting crack. A massive beam crashed down, splitting the floorboards, sparks exploding into the air. The whole house shuddered as if it were collapsing into itself. Samuel shoved me toward the hatch, his voice desperate. Down, Margaret. Now. But I froze, caught between the flames, my son's betrayal, Samuel's rage, and Michael's secrets. And then, through the roar of the fire and the screams, I heard it. Voices. Dozens of them. From outside the house. Surround the property. Don't let anyone out alive. More of them had come. We weren't trapped just by fire. We were trapped by an army. The roar of fire was deafening now. Flames swallowed the ceiling beams, sending embers raining down like molten hail. Smoke pressed into every corner, clawing at our lungs, blinding our eyes. And outside, the voices grew louder. Seal the exits. Don't let them escape. The house had become a cage, fire and men tightening around us with every passing second. Michael shoved the hatch open wider, coughing through the thick black smoke. We move now. It's our only chance. Samuel pulled me toward it, his face slick with sweat, his jaw locked. Margaret, down first. Hurry. But I resisted, my hand clutching his arm. What about Richard? Richard stood frozen by the window, his face pale, his body trembling. He glanced at the shadows moving outside, guns glinting in their hands, then at the inferno tearing through the house. Panic consumed him. We're dead either way, he screamed. Samuel snarled, his pistol raised. You brought them here, and you're still standing there like a coward? Richard's eyes filled with tears, his body shaking like a child's. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't know it would get this far. The ceiling above him cracked, splintering like brittle bone. Richard, move. I screamed. But before he could, the ceiling beam came crashing down. I lunged forward, but Samuel's grip yanked me back, saving me from being crushed. The beam smashed into the floor between us and Richard, flames leaping higher with the impact. He stumbled backward, cut off by fire. Mom, he cried, his voice breaking. I can't get to you. Michael grabbed my shoulders, his voice hard. We can't reach him now. We need to go. No. My scream ripped through the smoke. That's my son. Richard's tear-streaked face glowed red in the firelight. His hands pressed against the burning wall, his eyes wild with terror. Mom, please. Don't leave me here. Samuel's face was steel, his pistol still raised. We can't waste another second. The house is falling apart. Outside, a spray of bullets shattered the glass, whizzing past our heads. The attackers were firing into the house now, cutting off every escape except the hatch. Richard sobbed, choking on the smoke. Mom, save me. Please save me. My heart tore apart. My son. My blood. The boy I carried, the boy I fed, the boy I stayed up nights rocking to sleep. And yet, this same boy had betrayed me, had sold my home, had delivered us into the hands of these men. Samuel yanked the hatch fully open. Down, Margaret. Now before we all die. I turned toward Richard, reaching out with my hand through the fire, my voice raw. Richard, jump. Jump to me. His eyes filled with despair. He shook his head violently, the flames circling him. I can't. I can't do it. The floor beneath him groaned, then split. Flames roared upward, swallowing the space where he stood. His scream tore through the smoke. Mom. And then he was gone. I fell to my knees, my scream shattering against the inferno. Richard. Samuel dragged me toward the hatch, his own voice breaking. We can't save him. Margaret will die too. Michael jumped down first, his voice echoing from below. Hurry. Now. Samuel shoved me forward, forcing me down into the black hole as the house above us collapsed. My body hit the damp dirt floor of the storm shelter, the air thick with dust. Seconds later, Samuel dropped down beside me, slamming the hatch shut just as the world above roared into flames. I lay there on the cold ground, sobbing, my body shaking, the sound of my son's final scream still burning in my ears. But through the ringing silence, Michael's voice came again, grim and certain. This isn't over. If they wanted Richard dead, they wouldn't have set the house on fire. They'll be waiting for us outside. Samuel's eyes met mine in the dim light, his face ashen. Then God help us all. Because now we've lost the only bargaining chip we had. The air underground was damp and heavy, thick with the scent of soil and mold. My sobs echoed off the dirt walls as we crawled through the narrow storm tunnel. Every scrape of our hands against the earth a reminder of the son I had just lost to the fire above. I could still hear him. Richard's final scream burned in my ears, clawing at my heart. Samuel moved ahead of me, his shoulders tense, his silence as heavy as stone. Michael brought up the rear, his gun in one hand, his flashlight cutting sharp beams through the darkness. Every few seconds, Samuel glanced back at me, but he said nothing. He didn't need to. His silence said it all. Richard was gone, and the blame was tearing us all apart. My hands shook as I crawled. My voice cracked through the suffocating dark. If I had reached for him sooner, if I had just tried harder. Samuel's voice was low, gruff. Don't do that to yourself, Margaret. The fire took him, not you. But Michael's voice cut in sharper. No, the fire didn't take him. The syndicate did. And they're still out there waiting for us. The weight of his words pressed on me. My son had betrayed me, yes, but he had also been a pawn in something far bigger than I understood. The tunnel sloped downward, the earth damp beneath my palms. The deeper we went, the louder the sound of dripping water became. At one point, Samuel stopped and whispered, "Quiet. Do you hear that?" We froze. At first, I thought it was just the dripping water. But then I heard it. Voices. Muffled, echoing through the soil, distorted but close. Michael cursed under his breath. They know about the tunnels. Samuel spun, his eyes narrowing. How would they know unless... He stopped short, his gaze cutting toward Michael. Michael didn't flinch. Because I built them. And if I know them, they'll be waiting at the exit. My stomach turned cold. You built these tunnels? Michael's jaw clenched. 20 years ago. When I was still with them. They weren't just escape routes, Margaret. They were supply lines. Smuggling routes. That's how I know where they lead. Samuel's face twisted with fury. So you've been dragging us through their backyard this whole time? Michael snapped, his voice sharp. Would you rather be buried under your burning house? I pressed my hand to the dirt wall, my breath shaking. Every word pulled me deeper into a truth I didn't want. Michael wasn't just part of my past. He was part of the nightmare we were living now. We crawled farther until the tunnel split into two paths, one sloping upward, the other dropping deeper into darkness. Samuel lifted his flashlight. Which way? Michael hesitated. His silence stretched too long. Samuel's voice thundered. Answer me. Michael's eyes flicked toward me, then back to Samuel. The left goes out near the cliffs. It's faster, but they'll be waiting there. The right goes deeper into the old smuggling pit. It's longer, riskier, but we might buy ourselves time. Samuel gritted his teeth. Or you're leading us into a trap. The voices above grew louder, boots stomping against the ground overhead. Earth rained down from the ceiling. Time was running out. I looked at both tunnels, the left and the right, my heart pounding in my chest. For the first time, Samuel and Michael's eyes turned to me. Margaret, Samuel said, his voice low but firm. You choose. Michael's flashlight flickered, shadows dancing across his worn face. Your choice could save us, or kill us. The tunnels yawned open before me like the jaws of two beasts, one promising fire, the other darkness. And in that terrible silence I realized I was holding not just my life but theirs too. Both tunnels gaped before me, one rising toward the cliffs, the other sinking into shadow. My heart hammered in my chest as Samuel and Michael waited for my answer, their faces ghostly in the dim light. The fire above had burned away everything, my house, my memories, my son. Now the earth beneath threatened to swallow us whole. I took a breath that scraped my lungs. We take the right tunnel. Samuel nodded grimly. Michael's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Without another word, we crawled deeper into the earth. The air grew colder, wetter. The tunnel walls narrowed until my shoulders brushed both sides. The silence was thick, broken only by the scrape of our knees and the faint dripping of unseen water. Behind us, muffled shouts grew fainter. For now we had outrun the men. But in that silence, guilt screamed louder than any voice. Richard's face haunted me. The fear in his eyes, the desperation in his voice, the betrayal that burned in my chest. My son had chosen himself over me, but in the end, fire had chosen for him. My whisper cracked the silence. I failed him. Samuel's voice came from ahead, gruff but steady. No. He failed you. Michael's voice followed, softer, deeper. He was just a boy drowning in a storm he didn't understand. The real monsters are the men who used him. And me forever being part of them. The tunnel widened suddenly, opening into a cavern lit faintly by shafts of moonlight from cracks above. The ground was uneven, littered with crates and rusted metal. Samuel raised his pistol. The smuggling pit. Michael scanned the shadows, his voice grim. We're not safe yet. This is where they'll corner us if they know the tunnels. As if on cue, a voice echoed through the cavern, deep and commanding. Well done, Michael. You led her right to us. Figures emerged from the shadows, 6 men, guns raised, masks hiding their faces. At their center stood a man taller than the rest, his voice carrying authority like a whip. Samuel lifted his weapon, but Michael raised a hand. His face was pale, his shoulders tense. I know that voice. The leader stepped forward, pulling off his mask. His hair was streaked with gray, his eyes sharp and merciless. Hello, brother. My breath caught. Brother? Michael's voice broke. David. The man smirked. Did you think you could run forever? You stole from the syndicate, you betrayed blood, and for what? For her. His eyes landed on me, cold and calculating. This old woman? Samuel bristled, gun steady. She's worth 10 of you. David ignored him, his gaze fixed on Michael. You could have been a king in our world. Instead, you chose weakness. You chose love. And now both of you will die here. The men raised their guns. But Michael moved first. With a roar, he drew his pistol and fired. Chaos erupted. Bullets cracked through the cavern, sparks flying off the metal crates. Samuel fired back, dragging me behind cover. Michael and David clashed in the center, their guns flashing, their voices filled with rage. Years of betrayal, blood, and family war exploded in that moment. Then, a single shot rang out louder than the rest. David staggered, clutching his chest. His eyes widened, then darkened as he collapsed to the dirt. Michael stood. Trembling, his pistol still raised, his breath ragged. It's over, he whispered. But even as David fell, the other men closed in. Too many, too fast. Samuel fired until his gun clicked empty. Michael grabbed a fallen rifle and shouted, "Run, Margaret! Go!" I froze, torn between survival and the 2 men who had risked everything for me. Then Michael did the unthinkable. He stepped out of cover, firing wildly, drawing all eyes, all bullets, onto himself. "Go!" he screamed. The world slowed. Bullets tore through him, his body jerking with each impact. Yet he stood, firing until the last breath left him, until the rifle slipped from his hands. He fell, his eyes meeting mine one last time. And in that final look, I saw it. The love, the regret, the sacrifice. Samuel yanked my arm, dragging me toward a narrow crack of moonlight at the far end of the cavern. We stumbled through, the night air cold and sharp against my burning lungs. Behind us, the cavern roared with gunfire, shouts, and the echoes of death. When we finally reached the cliffs, the sea wind hit my face. I collapsed to the ground, sobbing, the stars above blurred through my tears. Michael was gone. Richard was gone. My house was ash. Samuel knelt beside me, his face shadowed by the moon. You're still alive, Margaret. And that means you fight on. That's what they never wanted, for you to survive. I lifted my face to the wind, my heart broken but beating. The night was vast, endless, cruel, but it was mine. And in that moment, I understood the lesson this hell had carved into me. Trust is the most fragile thing in this world. Blood can betray you, strangers can save you, and sometimes, the only strength left is the choice to keep breathing when everything else is gone. So I did. I breathed. I survived.